in some way that I want. That really has nothing to do with anything. I want to know specifically if you have feminist ideals or you do not have feminist ideals.
But I mean, I suppose that I don't have feminist ideals, but the reason why I talk about all of those things, because I don't think it's an argument where it's men therefore better. I think that's an oversimplification. I think, yeah, if we look at all the different strengths that men versus women have, it's not just that they're men. And I think kind of just trying to oversimplify it in those ways, you're going to lose a lot of people who...
Well, I think making it overly complex actually makes us lose far more people. So just because you take have
you heard of peaceful Latinas?
Yeah, they're idiots. But just because you
take
a...
but they're actually someone who agree with my position. But
that's nice. They're a bunch of liberal scumbags. They're a couple of liberal scumbags.
They agree with my position. But when it's marketed as, oh, just repeal the 19th, like their brain shuts off.
Oh, yay. Progressives agree with your position. Awesome. That's great. Swell.
Yeah, we live in a society where we must.
Did you just use the "we live in a society"?
We must be able to persuade.
You don't persuade the devil by dancing with him. The devil persuades you. That's how that ends up working. So what happens is by you moving off the message. Let me finish my point.
You're one of the let me finish my point. Channels you just said.
Let me finish my point. Yeah, their ideology could be challenged in a debate channel. That's true. That's not me dancing with them politically and saying, "Oh, you happen to agree with my policy prescription, so that makes them good." That's absurd. It doesn't make them good. Dancing with a bunch of progressives like Destiny and the rest of these coomers and acting like they're on your team because they agree with certain issues is absurd. These people are fucking horrible. They're horrible people. They do horrible things. And for us to make these kinds of like bizarre advocations that, oh, the concept is so complex, the average Joe could just never really understand it. There's so much nuance. There's not really that much nuance. It's not really that complex.
People absolutely can understand it, but we have to take the time to explain it first before they do.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do. That's what debate does. Debate helps flesh out these ideas and these ideologies so that people can understand it. But these people are not our friends. They're not our buddies. They're not our pals. They absolutely want to dismantle the society in which we live. And they're pretty awful. So no, I don't care what progressives might agree with your positions.
Yeah, but it goes to show that the positions themselves are sound, and they're sound to the point where you might even be able to implement.
No, it doesn't show that it's sound just because some people agree with them. That's an absurd statement.
I mean, if you agree that it's not a bad system, and or at the very least not a feminist system, I'll be clear there. And you even have like some progressives getting on board with the idea. I don't think that's something to scoff at, and I think we're being needlessly. I don't want to say condescending, but I mean a little bit there.
Well, good. We need to gatekeep more. We need to make sure that we're not letting in the most horrifying people on planet Earth so that we can advocate for a system which they will then corrupt. That's how progressive communism got power to begin with.
What are you talking about letting into?
I'm saying that what ends up happening is this. It's the curious case of Charlie Kirk and Con Inc. It's the same exact thing. What happens is you create big tent ideology around something which is hyper-specific, and then the people who you bring in begin to pollute the message. In Charlie Kirk's case, it was the LGBTQ, who he wanted to come in to add to the big tent-style messaging that he had for his brand of conservatism. The same exact thing can happen within whatever ideology you're advocating for. The more horrific and horrible people you bring in to advocate for that ideology, the more they're going to end up polluting it. That's how it works in real time. That's how politics operates. That's how lobbyists begin to gain control of messaging and how they end up completely destroying what the message originally was.
So I think you're getting to the core of something that we did try in the conservative movement. That's the issue of big tent conservatism. Like, we want LGBT people voting Republican. We want all of these votes, right? And I think we should be able to work together where we have agreements. That's true. But the problem is, and we see this even in the media, when you're too willing to, I guess, go along to get along, you not only end up working together where you have agreement, which is just strategic in my opinion,
what but the movement itself, the Overton window changes. Why say this when you just got done saying, oh, but there's progressives who agree with me, and now you're kind of moving out of the other side of your face and saying, oh, yeah, but the thing is, it's like, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. It's like, get off the fence and pick a position.
Wait. I don't think it's a bad thing if progressives also support me, but I think what's bad is where we start to say that just because you agree with this one position, you are now conservative. You're part of the new right that is inclusive. There's a big difference there. There is a very, very
What's
big
the
difference
distinction?
there. The distinction is, well, we're not going to, just because you agree with me on one of these issues, that doesn't mean I'm going to compromise my position on all these other issues.
That was Charlie Kirk's position. I disagree with the fact that you're LGBTQ, but as long as you're voting with me, everything's A-OK. No.
But
what happens is it pollutes.
Is there wasn't.
What happened is they polluted that message and absolutely destroyed it. Charlie Kirk and TPUSA have had to back up on all of their messaging, everything from immigration to LGBTQ rights. Fortunately, there was a basically fatwa that was put up against them by one Mr. Can't even be named on the internet, who completely dismantled that messaging before the poison got too out of hand. But that's exactly what was going on, was an inclusion of these lunatics inside of the conservative movement, which pollute the message. That's why Donald Trump now has rainbow flags all over the place. It pollutes the message.
Well, there's a difference between saying, yes, you should vote for me versus I'm going to put you up on stage as the spokesperson for my message. That's not something that I agree with. That's not something that I support.
Well, then why are you referencing these people like they're your buddies?
What are you talking about?
Well, have you heard of Peaceful Latinas, says Lauren Chen. They support my message. That's essentially showcasing them as speakers for the message.
No, that's just saying that in this one regard, this is an argument that I think does have broad appeal if we explain it correctly, or at least if I explain myself correctly.
I don't think it does. I think what ends up happening is it does not have broad appeal. Infiltrators come in and they'll begin to pollute, dilute, and destroy the message. That's what ends up happening. Conservatism does not have a unified message, and it doesn't because we don't seem to understand that conservatism is supposed to be a patriarchal structure. It's supposed to be top-down patriarchy based around Christian ethics. That is conservatism, or else what are we trying to conserve, Lauren?
I think you're right. If it's not that, then what is it?
Right, what is it? So then the question becomes, why are we in bed with women, especially women, female commentators, who absolutely do not agree with this? Your assaults against Pearl Davis, which led to our beef to begin with, my critiques of your video as you went after Pearl Davis, was a way for you. She is dismantling feminist ideology and is pro-patriarchy, and all you could do is criticize her for that. That is covert feminism.
She's anti-Christian. She's not.
She's not anti-Christian.
She absolutely is. If she's telling men to, not date women in the church, if she's saying that Christianity has become,
she's telling them not to date reformed prostitutes. Do you want men to date reformed prostitutes in the church, Lauren?
No, I don't actually.
No, and neither does Pearl, because she's smart, because she understands that what's going on inside of your Protestant churches, where everything is a personal Jesus, where you have destroyed your ecclesiastical authority, where you have destroyed the actual relationship with the church, that they will let in reformed prostitutes who just got their heads dunked a week before at heresy.com, and now suddenly they're your new trad wife.
What do you mean let into the church? I don't think someone like Nala should be in any type of leadership. I mean, aside from the fact that she is a woman, she is a porn star. So that's not something that I support. But if you actually read what Pearl has said in regards to just like the idea that Christian women who go to church are no different than secular women in regard to something like divorce, that's patently untrue.
No, it's not. It's not untrue.
Look at the divorce statistics.
Yeah, let's look at the divorce statistics and dive into it. So here's what is true. What is true is that self-identified Christians do get divorced at an even higher rate than secularists do. What happens is, if you look in it's a pious scale. So people who take their religion more seriously, the less likely they are to get divorced. But if you're talking about covert feminists who were literally sucking 100 penises last year on film in front of everybody, now suddenly they come into the church, that's your new trad wife? No, Pearl Davis says that's bullshit. And we shouldn't follow that. And that has nothing to do with the Christian ethic, and it has nothing to do with the Christian faith. And she's absolutely right. That is a dismantling of feminism. Last thing that you want is your future leaders to be bogged down with former prostitutes. That seems like a bad idea, Lauren.
No, I don't disagree there. The video that I did about Nala specifically is responding to people who
You
say
kissed
that
her
she
ass,
should not be
Lauren.
saved.
You kissed her
Sorry?
ass. You kissed Nala's ass.
Yeah, because I
You
think
kissed her ass.
if she is a new person born again, then we have absolutely no right to say that she has not been saved. Now, I also believe that the best indicator.
What do you mean? Why don't you have that right? She went to
heresychurch.com
heresychurch.com and got her head dunked. What to you is salvation?
Her head? What are you talking about?
Meaning that she walked into a church, the particular one that she went to is a church which is known to take in basically any type of celebrity that they can, and especially the more horrible ones. They instantly give them a baptism and then say, oh, you're cured and you found Jesus, and then they go on a testimonial tour. Why should we take that as being authentic? If you shall know them by their fruits, that means you shall know them by their works. And in this particular case, where is Nala giving compensation back to the hundreds and thousands of men who she did horrific damage to? Where's your demand for that, Lauren?
I don't have a problem with that. The video that I did, though, was discussing whether Nala's salvation is real. And I think ultimately I did say that we shall know them by their works. This is something that we will have to wait and see. I don't disagree as a concept that Nala is, my point, though, with Nala is that it is possible for her to be saved. There's no one who is beyond the redemption of Christ.
I didn't say that there was.
Change the fact that, sorry?
I didn't say that there was, but let me ask you a question.
Well, there you go.
Assuming for a second.
Can I clarify my position first?
Clarify
because
it.
you're saying a lot of things that I don't agree with. So I think you may not be sure as to what my actual beliefs are. I think a Christian man has every right to say that you were doing this yesterday. I don't want to marry you. I think there's no end to the standards that Christian men should have for other Christians. So I think a Christian man should be able to say no to dating a Christian woman if it's for something as simple as you are too much of a careerist.
Yeah, but
let alone you used to be a porn star.
But can is different than should. What Pearl's saying is you shouldn't do it. And I agree. Yes. You shouldn't do it. Not only that, let me ask you this, Lauren. Let's assume for a second that a person found Christ and they were convicted of doing some kid diddling. Would you let them watch your kid because they were saved?
No, absolutely. No, 100%.
Yeah, so then what happens is inside these churches, what's going on is these women are using Christianity as a cloak and a shield. Half the time they're doing pornography with a crucifix on their chest. Half the time they have quotes, biblical quotes on their butt cheeks. I've met these women time and time again through the whatever podcast and these other places. They're utilizing the church specifically as a shield and a cloak. When we get into the red pill prescriptions themselves, if we're going opposing to descriptors, red pillars are making it very clear that the church has become corrupted with feminism, and it has.
All right, well, that's all well and good, but that's not what my position on Nala was. And I think I've been.
It was. You kissed her ass that whole video. I watched the whole video. You were busy kissing her ass, telling her how great she was. And she's not great. She's a horrible, awful person who did horrible damage to people, has done nothing to give compensation to any of them.
I agree that she, I have seen people say, she should give away the money then if she's sincere. I don't disagree with that either. I will say that, we have people like Andrew Tate, who I think should also do more to compensate for the fact that he built his empire off of, running a cam service. But when it comes to the question of should a Christian man date Nala, should we accept her as a leader in the church? I think that's a no. It's a different question than, is it possible for someone like Nala to have been saved?
Yeah, on the salvific claim, we would make the claim that the Orthodox would never make a claim that you're not saved. But that's really beside the point. What ends up happening, no, it is, and I'll tell you how. Because all of the tangling that you guys end up doing with these red pillars is just to say, who are you to judge? She's been saved. No, they should judge. Absolutely, they should judge, and more Christians should be very much more righteously judgmental against these horrific human beings who suddenly claim they found Jesus yesterday, go inside of the patriarchal churches and begin the dismantling of them from the inside out. No, we should judge them. Yes, we should. Right, Lauren? We should judge these women, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Like pornography is wrong. OnlyFans is wrong. But the question is, like, when someone turns away from that, do we accept them in the church as recognizing that they are sinners and that they are not in a
reason that we have a
position of leadership?
catechesis inside of Orthodoxy that takes many years is to make sure that you can weed out people who aren't ready for the faith. Theosis and Christianity is a lifelong process. The path is narrow. It's very easy to fall off of that path. There's no reason for us. In fact, I would say the opposite is true, that your relationship with Jesus Christ should be kept as private as possible, and all of your charitable contributions, donations, things like that should also be kept confidential. What happens instead is these people go on these massive publicity tours, oftentimes heralded by people such as yourself, who make these videos, these long-form videos, absolutely kissing their ass when you should be completely dismantling and wrecking them. They're horrific for the patriarchal structures which you seem to want to advocate for. Why should we kiss their asses? So there's Pearl Davis. She's not kissing their ass. She says, no, broad, get out of here. You're completely destroying the fabric of society, and you're using this as a cloak. We can clearly see you're using it as a cloak, and you people lambast her for saying that, but it's true.
So when it comes to someone like Nala, do you think, you just said you should be keeping your relationship with Christ private. Do you think that someone who is newly saved should be is it a bad thing if they share their testimony?
Absolutely. Running around the country trying to share your testimony of your salvation from the day before, it actually is a defeater to the position of the humbleness of Christianity. You're supposed to operate within Christianity with humility. That is the entire point of it. You're not supposed to pray publicly. You're not supposed to say, look at me. You're not supposed to tell people on Twitter, oh, I'll pray for you. That's just saying fuck you. That's all that's saying. I'll pray for you is just saying fuck you. That's all it is. Okay? That's bullshit. That's not Christianity. That's something totally different than what Christianity is. And all I see is people on your side completely going after these red pill podcasters and people like this. And yes, it's true. Many of them are degenerates, but that doesn't make them less right about what's going on and the fact that the Christ pillars offer no prescriptions to marriage at all. They offer nothing.
I don't think that's fair to say they offer no prescriptions for marriage at all.
Well then, okay, Lauren, why should a secularist man get married? Give me one good reason.
Well, I think that having children is a very good and very important one.
Why should a secular man want children? Why would you want a secular man to have children?
Well, because I mean, aside from the general decline in birth rates, which I think is a
you want secularists to continue to reproduce? That seems like a good idea to you?
Yes, I think even if you are not Christian, you probably should have kids. We're at a point.
Is their marriage valid if it's a secularist marriage to begin with, Lauren?
Valid? No.
No. So you're basically telling them to sin, right, Lauren? Aren't you telling them to sin by telling them to get a non-Christian marriage and have children? Aren't you telling them to sin, Lauren?
Okay, this is, yeah.
What's that? Yes, you're telling. Yeah, so you're telling people to sin, Lauren. That's your prescription. The whole time you've been beating the holy hell out of the red pillars, and the entire time they've been right, and you've been telling them to sin, Lauren.
So hang on. Let's
answer the question, Lauren.
I'm happy to admit where I'm wrong. This is not a problem for me. Let's talk about this. So, do you believe that? Do you believe that it is sinful for a man to get married and have kids if he is not a Christian?
That's not marriage. Marriage is a sacrament between a man and a woman. That's within the purview of the Christian ethic. You have been running around with the rest of the tradcons telling men to sin, Lauren. Why are you doing that? Now answer my question. Why are you doing that, Lauren?
Well, I think you're illustrating something, and again, you're getting upset with me here, but I'm happy to hear if I'm wrong, and we can talk about this. But I mean, it is true. I have argued for like a civil marriage, even within, if you're going to have kids as a man, even if you're not religious, cohabitation does not have the same outcomes as a civil marriage. That is true. There is still a difference between. And
it's all sinful, right, Lauren?
Yes, I think
then why are you advocating that people sin? Answer my question.
I guess I would. That's true. That's true. I guess my argument should be first for people to.
And now you know why I think you're a feminist, Lauren. Now you know.
Because of the marriage thing?
Because you go out of your way. You haven't thought these positions. The problem is when you lift these positions from people and you haven't actually thought about them, you end up being at the mercy of them. The reason I engage so much with these red pillars, the reason I engage so much with them, so that I actually understand their positions. The reason that I engage so much with the Christian sphere is so that I can really understand the positions. You don't have a good understanding or grasp on these positions. And it's covert feminism. What ends up happening ultimately, because you haven't thought these through, is you end up advocating for things like this, which are literally sinful, and you don't even know you're advocating for them.
No, I think you're right on and I will cede that. But I think when it comes to like the voting thing, I don't think it's fair to say that I haven't considered it. I think this is a good illustration of you're right here when it comes to advocating for secular marriage. I think I can simultaneously acknowledge that a secular marriage still has better outcomes for those involved and any children involved than something like cohabitation.
Oh, you're a Christian. You're not a consequentialist. You're not looking for outcomes. You're not looking for outcomes.
Let me finish. But then also recognize that by my own standard, that is not a marriage and is therefore sinful.
So that would be a contradiction, a performative contradiction.
I don't think it would be performative. I think it would be but it's not just for performance though. If you're actually like,
yes, it is for performance. The performance of X action leads to contradiction. It's a performative contradiction in your worldview. Literally.
It is a contradiction of my worldview, but I wouldn't say it's performative. I'm not doing it for an audience.
Okay, fine. We won't make the semantic too detailed, but it's a contradiction. Fine, as long as you concede that it's contradictory inside of your worldview. But let's go even deeper. Let's go even deeper into it, so that you understand even more. Okay, where these guys are coming from. Why in the world?
Sorry. Could we just stop for a second because we dove into